Australia historically has been a global leader in the PV industry. We've had leading technology experts, training, innovators, driven initially by a strong market presence in the off-grid, particularly off-grid market. And over recent years, we've seen the dramatic growth in grid-connected residential PV systems, and going back a couple of years, back to 2011, we had 360,000 residential PV systems installed, which put us ahead of any other country in terms of the largest numbers of systems. So, been a key part of the development of the global industry. But we're now starting to see the market in Australia now start to fall, and so we're falling further down the global league tables on PV. So put that into context. Back in 2012, we installed just over 1,000 megawatts of PV. Last year, 2013, that fell to around 800, and this year we're tracking about 700, just 740 megawatts. There's a couple of important reasons. PV has been historically well supported through government policies, largely state government feed-in tariffs and the Commonwealth solar credit multiplier, and that led to a surge in the number of residential installations that we saw in 2010, 11 and 12. Those support mechanisms have been slowly wound back, and so at this point in time, the only support mechanism now is through the Renewable Energy Scheme. And over that time, we've also seen costs of PV fall, and so we've had the two combined effects of falling costs has meant we've been able to maintain a reasonable level of market, but there's been a significant reduction in support from governments. The RET is now pretty well the only policy support for the solar industry in Australia. And if we saw the scrapping of the RET come through the Renewable Energy Target review, that would increase the cost to customers by about 40%. And that would mean a dramatic reduction in the level of PV installations, because PV will be less affordable. Modelling that we've done, which can probably best be illustrated through a slide, will show that if the RET was scrapped and solar no longer got support through the scheme, we'd see a 40 to 50% reduction in the number of installations, and that would lead to a drop in 5,000 to 6,000 jobs. So there's 13,000 people employed at the moment. You're nearly looking at halving the size of the industry. We estimate that there's currently around 4,000 businesses that are actively involved in the solar industry across Australia, predominantly small to medium-sized businesses in a number of regional areas dotted around the country. And a lot of those businesses would then struggle to actually just focus on PV and would have to diversify into other activities. And we would expect a number of those businesses will sort of wind up or find other things to do. And we've actually seen that happen already over the last couple of years as the industry's contracted. We've seen less businesses active in the industry and employing less people. I'd make a couple of points to that. I think if there was winding back of government support, at the same time as the government's committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, people would then be left wondering, why would you bother re-entering the market when we're needed at some time in the future if the government has sort of wasted all the effort that's been undertaken to date to get to what we see as a world-scale industry, creating really good jobs, helping customers reduce their energy bills. Why would anyone want to come back in? And it would take a long time for people to forget sort of the government's policy backflip on this. And I might just say that, there's a lot of investment that has gone into the solar industry as well, and that has been on the back of bipartisan political support that we've had for a long time on the renewable scheme and solar in particular. And so it would be a sort of quite a jaundicing experience that we would think for the industry. Well, currently we expect that by the end of this year we'll have four 4,000 megawatts of installed PV capacity, which is around 7% of total generation capacity in Australia, and it would produce around 2.5% of our power needs. With appropriate policy support, that could grow much larger as we continue to, if we were to continue to roll out systems at the current rate, and we could easily get to 10% just beyond 2020. Well, there's quite a bit of debate as to what some of the things that may happen, but certainly we've seen a lot of the big reductions in costs pretty well already happening, or have already happened. We're probably likely to see improved efficiency. So in other words, the performance of the system will improve. We're likely to see more innovative applications. Some people are talking to direct PV heating hot water, or combined solar hot water PV systems. And then we're also likely to see pretty soon the advent of affordable battery storage technology, which in itself is not producing electricity, but it's making the economics of PV more attractive, and it's certainly an area that some people are looking closely at. Well, the role of REC agents and the members of the REC Agents Association is really to help solar and energy efficiency business access the benefits through the Renewable Energy Scheme for the benefit of their customers. So if we don't have a Renewable Energy Scheme, then there's not really much role for a REC agent. So certainly our future is pretty well bound into the continuation of the scheme. But we also provide other services to our clients, and we're also involved in energy efficiency markets and the like. So there is a bit of diversity, but by and large, the future of REC agents is pretty well dependent on basically the REC scheme continuing. One of the amazing things about PV is that it's been embraced by all of across Australia, and so at the beginning of this year we had more than 2 million households had either a solar hot water or a PV system. So it's pretty well out there everywhere, but that's not really well understood by our politicians and our policymakers. And so we're encouraging our clients and the broader solar energy industry to get out there and tell particularly politicians, but other policymakers and the broader community, what a success story PV has been, and that there will be dire consequences for the industry, there'll be dire consequences for the climate, and basically there will be loss of opportunities for future households to save money.